Our second speaker is Reyhan Yalcindag, Baydemir, who is a human rights lawyer. She has experience and practice at both the Turkish courts and the European Court of Human Rights. She was Vice President of the Human Rights Association. She was also a member of the Mediterranean Human Rights Network. At the present time, she's a member of the Diyarbakir Bar Council, and she's part of the Honorary Council for the Human Rights Association. Her paper is entitled A Woman's Struggle, Using Gender Lenses to Understand the Plight of Women's Rights Defenders in the Kurdish Region of Turkey.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I want to thank Deniz, Hannah, and all other friends to organize such an important meeting here. Let's start. Within this period in which everyone debates peaceful solution of the Kurdish problem in Turkey, participating into such a conference in Belfast, which has serious experiences, is very much meaningful and important. In fact, I came here from the heart of the land where peace, justice, and facing the past fairly are as necessary as water and bread. During the history of the Republic founded 90 years ago, dominant ideology ignored everyone except for itself. A new republic was founded according to a constitutional reality in which Kurds, Alevis, and non-Muslims such as Armenians, Assyrians, Greeks were non-existent. Shortly in this geography, Turkish Republic always canonized militarism as male-based mentality, Sunnism as religious sect, and resorted to elimination, assimilation, and ignoring of others with all sorts of tools. Although Kurds were fundamental co-founders of the first assembly in 1920, Kurds never surrendered to the Kurd assimilation, and deciding they were subjected right after the proclamation of the Republic in 1923. Always applied different resistance methods. And over the last 30 years, as you know, an armed conflict situation continued. Therefore, Kurds' lands were destructed, 4,000 villages were destroyed, 4 million Kurds became homeless and exposed to forced migration. Women were raped under custody. 5,000 civilians were killed by extrajudicial killings, and thousands were disappeared under custody, as some of our colleagues today in the morning session they referred about it. Because they didn't give up their resistance, their mother tongue and national identity, these costed too much. Prior to this last period, that could be identified as the transition from armed struggle to unarmed struggle, Kurds attempted to revolt 28 times during the history of the Republic, but all of them were resulted with bloody massacres, and however they responded all the cruelties with resistance. Therefore, we could say that Kurds' struggle for freedom and democracy is one of the most difficult struggles of the history of humanity. Last century was a century in which Kurds were exposed to massacres, harassment, and death, but I believe that this century that we are in will be the century of Kurds' liberty. In the last Nowruz celebration, one of the common celebrations of Middle East and Central Asia, which is acknowledged as awakening of nature, the manifest of unarmed democratic struggle of Mr. Öcalan, has a historic importance. Although Kurds resorted to armed methods to survive, not to be assimilated, to defend their mother tongue, to resort to armed methods not because they love it too much, but because there was no any other choice. As a result of this, all crimes against humanity were applied to them and no case launched against the perpetrators, and impunity applied in favor of the perpetrators. Due to I am from human rights movement, I can say only based upon my experiences that in many parts of Kurdistan, the lands are witnesses of themselves of this war. Hundreds of mass graves are still waiting to be opened by the human rights defenders and public prosecutors. And very, very short comments to one of my friends here. And not only women's relatives are in the mass graves, but Kurdish women are in the mass graves themselves. Because women guerrillas or some of Kurdish villages were women who were disappeared or killed by extrajudicial killings. So the women movement has to be in the peace process now. However, there is a fundamental nuance separating Kurdish movement from other world's experiences, and it is women who are the most distinct symbol of resistance and struggle. Kurdish movement never defended such ideology, postponing women's liberty question after abolition. On contrary, they believe without women's liberty, society and even world will not be free. Therefore, women's role and experiences in Kurdish struggle is indispensable during the course of unarmed struggle though. Paternal-minded state with male-dominant perspective has been proceeding in the course of AKP's ruling for the last 11 years in the same way. Women always seems to be the other sex, and from primary school books to public sports, appreciated role of women has been sexist roles. Moreover, equality of women and men never came to existence either in working life, education or in public sphere. Committed killings under the name of honor still being continuing, and women are being murdered by husbands, ex-husbands, boyfriends, ex-boyfriends, uncle, brother and father, etc. Like former ruling parties, AKP does not favor and recognize women as individual, instead does bless and favor family. In spite of law of violence against women legislated after the women organizations' pressing efforts, problems of implementation are still seriously existing. Women who applying to the public prosecutor officers for protection are still being killed in the middle of streets. Therefore, a serious problem of mentality, equality of women and men, and violence against women are still in progress. On the other hand, it's a critical importance in building of justice and peace because it is far from any kind of rulership. In that, rulers have been the reason of war, and men have been gaining its rulership in power. Just as torture and assimilation, any kind of violence committed against women and killings of women are crimes against humanity. The picture shows a summary of a gender side actually. During the course of AKP again, violence against women increased 1,400%, a very, very huge figure. And instead of providing gender equality, Prime Minister has a mentality calling all the women in Turkey to have first 3, and now he changed his mind and he asked all the women to have 5 children at least, and provided women a role that is not initiator but conventional. Even though AKP representatives becoming famous with such theses offering pregnancy after sexual assault should never be over, assaulted women should give birth, the government takes care of children. Seem to leave aside abortion law at the moment after the serious reactions of women organizations. With other laws and regulations, AKP government informs women's fathers or husbands via SMS if women's pregnancy test is positive. In a country where approximately 3 or 4 women are being killed every day, identifying this problem as jealousy, love murder, divorce requests, etc. is hiding the fact. The reality is the fact that the mentality ignoring women and femicides are political. Justification of new murders have become the fact that the perpetrators didn't punish what they deserved and took advantage of amnesties and serious reduced sentences. Once again, for the last 4 years, opponent advocates, human rights defenders, politicians, academicians, journalists, mayors were arrested under the name of KCK operations, and most of the detainees are Kurdish women, because it shows that Kurdish women do not only struggle against general political problems, but also struggle for freedom of women. IDEST, you may not believe, maybe I will tell some titles. I'm going to share a few parts of KCK main cases indictment, which has 180 suspects and still going on before the Diyarbakir Heavy Criminal Court. Yes, these are crimes in this indictment. To claim 40% women quota, to organize workshops related to violence against women, to participate into International Women's Day, 8 March demonstrations, to organize activities related to 25th of November, week of violence against women, such as press releases, distribution of brochures, etc. and to carry out women's shelters works within the scope of Kurdish municipalities and so on. I can give a lot of examples, but that's all now. Therefore, against such a government's mentality, to carry out works related to a woman is a situation requiring pride and determination. Today, perception of the fact that Kurdish women movement is more common that throughout Turkey does not reflect the truth indeed. Women are murdered under the name of honor killings all over Turkey. The only difference is the history of struggle for 30 years rendered women as pioneer, insurgent and activist. Therefore, Kurdish women who wriggled out of its mere victim identity is being represented in front lines of meetings, neighborhood works, mayorships, aldermanships, NGOs, parliament and unions. While Turkey 72 years ago was world's the second in women's representative, today it is one of the last in world and EU rankings. BDP is the only party applying women quota. Now, after the KSK operations and these indictments I referred, now BDP's demand is 50% participation of women, 50 quota, and co-chairmanship. And today, BDP is the party possessing the most women deputy, mayor and councillor in Grand National Assembly of Turkey. Nearly to say the fact that women are rendered as visible on behalf of Kurds in assemblies and municipalities won't be an exaggeration when looked at available data. Consequently, saying this is possible. While Kurds are struggling for their mother tongues and identity, the Kurdish women are conducting the struggle of equality of women in the same time. Women's shelters are made actual by BDP municipalities except for some exceptions. Hence, with the reality of women exposed to sexual assault, discrimination at home, school, workplace, bride exchange and child bribe, today Kurdish women have changed mere victim situation into pioneer and insurgent. I want to share that women provide themselves the maximum role in the course of peace and solution too. With Mr. Öcalan's New Democracy Manifest, Kurds are stating loudly that this is not an end. In contrast, this is a new inception. Accordingly, assurance of peace and real justice is again women because women are the most suffering victims of conflict and warfare. In this context, we believe that this experience will shed light on our road. For example, today in Turkey, just 11 of 63 sensible people commission are women, and this led to our serious criticism. 1325th resolution of UN that were made in 2000 dictated that women should be represented in any field of providing peace, including peace talks. Though in a peace facilitator coalition which should appeal to several regions of Turkey, women became in minority. I think that an equal representation here is extremely important, but that is not all. As I said, this period is a new inception. To provide a true peace, sense of justice should be fixed as well. In other words, I believe true peace's assurance is facing the past fairly and revealing the truth. And because I believe women will not give up sense of justice, my faith towards bright future is absolute. A good struggle past of Kurdish women is also main part of general struggle of Kurdish people. So those who ignore rights of Kurds, rights are also against women themselves. 3 months ago, in Paris, 3 Kurdish women politicians, Sakine Cansız, Fidan Doğan and Leyla Şaylemez, were killed, and still the case has not been launched and it's not clear, as it is one of the most political murder cases of this century. So this also proves that women has big role in Kurdish freedom movement. Lastly, I must say that the Kurdish women are the guarantee of Kurdish freedom movement, as they give struggle against state violence, they give struggle against violence of capitalist modernism, and they give struggle against patriarchal violence at the same time. Thank you a lot.